People like Dana Ringelman are known as disruptors, and their ideas disrupt traditional business models. They shake up the business world. Consumers love them. Traditional business players sometimes hate them. Well, our next speaker has, in my opinion, one of the most fascinating and interesting jobs on the planet. He studies and watches out for people like Dana Ringelman. He is one of the foremost analysts tracking and defining the power and the impact of digital disruption on traditional businesses. I mean, his job is to find troublemakers. He's here today to talk about the shift from the device to the experience. So please help me welcome Forrester's, this is a long title, Vice President and Principal Analyst serving consumer product strategy professionals, Mr. James McQuivey. Hey, good to see you.
Schönen guten Tag, meine Damen und Herren. Wonderful good day to you all. I will be speaking in English. That's about as much German as I could offer. I have exactly 13 minutes to talk to you about digital disruption. My goal in those minutes is to disrupt you. So we better get started, and I think we can accomplish it. The result of what I will talk about is that though at CeBIT we are here surrounded by many wonderful devices, beautiful gadgets, things that I want to buy and take home, the future of the technology experience will be not the device itself, but just the experience. I'll explain what I mean through just a few slides. Let's start first of all with a question. What in the world is digital disruption? I'm going to put up a face on the screen, one that you've seen before. Yes, this is Mark Zuckerberg, the founder or co-founder, if you've seen the movie, of Facebook. Now, I'm going to describe what Mr. Zuckerberg has accomplished with a sentence that comes out of my book, Digital Disruption. That sentence is as follows. When companies adopt technology, they do old things in new ways. When companies internalize technology, that's when they find disruptive new things to do. I would submit that Facebook is a business that any major media company in the world could have started. And why didn't they? I would submit that Wikipedia, that Craigslist, that these world-changing and economics-changing services that attract millions of people each day could have, and in fact should have been started by other companies. But those other companies had merely adopted technology. These individuals and their companies internalized technology. They became what I call digital disruptors. And the fact is, digital disruptors are just better than you. They're better than me. And as a result, they're coming straight for us. They're going to do three things to your business. First of all, they will be better, then stronger, then faster. What I mean by better is that they will create better product experiences. There's that word experience again. With those product experiences, they will then create stronger customer relationships. Facebook has a relationship with more than 1 billion people around the world. And those people, many of them, interact daily with Facebook. That's a rate of customer interaction that most businesses would kill for and will never achieve. That stronger customer relationship is a critical aspect of how digital disruptors operate. All of this, of course, they will bring to market faster than we would have thought possible before. Now, if I were up on stage to tell you that, well, digital disruptors are going to take over the world and the rest of us should retire and go home, it would be an even shorter speech than it already is. In fact, I'm here to tell you, you can do this too. The power of digital disruption is that the barriers to entry, the barriers to participation are falling for everyone, including large organizations that previously had to operate in slow and expensive ways. But now, if they choose to be digitally disruptive, can change that. A quick lesson on how. First of all, under old disruption, and the word disruption as popularized by Clayton Christensen at Harvard Business School, a very important concept, and his seminal book, The Innovator's Dilemma, is worth a read to understand the power of disruption. But what he describes, I would call old disruption. You see, under old disruption, very few people could amass the tremendous amount of capital necessary to bring what in the end are a very small number of ideas to the market. Now, those ideas can be very important. They can be very powerful. It can be the jet airplane. It can be MRI technology for medical scanning. Those are important, but they are few and they are rare. In digital disruption, however, many more people can participate. As we just heard from Indiegogo, we're able to invite many more people to bring their ideas to the table. And because the cost of participating in this, from capital acquisition to formulating and developing your idea to distributing your idea digitally, it costs much less per person to bring those ideas to market. Because it costs so little to bring to market, the natural result is more ideas. Some of them small, but meaningful. Some of them huge, like Facebook, bringing in more than 1 billion customer relationships and all the potential that those customer relationships create. Now, we're at CeBIT, and you appreciate numbers here, so let me make some up. I'm going to say that we're talking about at least 10 times the number of innovators, at least. And that those people are operating at least 1/10 the cost, and in many cases are operating at a free or nearly free level. As a result, multiply those two numbers together, and we're talking about 100 times the idea power that is about to enter your marketplace because of digital disruption. Now, what does that mean in the context of technology, devices, and gadgets that have been so important in the past? Where we would come to shows like this, we would go to see the latest technology, the device itself. Notice that Facebook has never made a device. Does that mean devices aren't important? No. Disruption is actually selling millions of them, hundreds of millions of them. Whether it's the more than 50 million Kindle devices that we believe Amazon has sold by the end of last year, whether it's the more than 120 million iPads that Apple reported that it sold by the end of last year, or whether we're talking the 30 million Kinect cameras that Microsoft, we estimate, has sold around the world by this point. Those are tens of millions of devices serving different categories, provided by different companies who compete on very different bases. So I'm telling you that the device is less important than it was in the past, but here's the evidence that devices are even more popular. My argument is that these devices are not actually important in themselves. They are important because they represent a digital platform that each of these companies is building, allowing them to sell so much compared to Apple, which 10 years ago, same company that made the iPad, took 2 years to sell 1 million iPods. That's the difference, not of having a better device, but of having a better platform on which to build that device and sell it to the market. So it's not these devices that actually matter. Instead, we use those devices as a foundation technology on which people build software. And it used to be that software was slow in coming, took a long time to reach the marketplace, and cost a lot. That's no longer the case in the mobile environment especially. But it's not even the software that matters. It is actually the consumer faith. Consumers believe in the combination of that technology foundation and the software on top of it so much that they buy more devices and spend more money on those devices, not to get the device, but to get the platform experience that those devices enable. That's the power. The end result is platform power, not device power. So from here on out, the next big thing will not be a thing at all. Instead, it will be a platform-based experience. And all the devices we'll see, whether it's a scale from Withings, whether it's the Parrot Flower Power Garden Sensor, whether it's any number of digital refrigerators people have tried to bring to market, or whether it's the Happy Fork, which measures how fast you eat to help you control the calories that you consume. None of those devices is the next big thing. They will all, from here on out, each device and service will have to fit into the platform experience. On the consumer side, provided by Apple or Google or Microsoft or Amazon. On the business-to-business side, it's things like Salesforce.com. It's things like, certainly, Amazon Web Services. Platforms that build a customer relationship and then allow you to digitally deliver value to those customer relationships. Now, the trick about digital disruption is that anybody can do it. At least, I argue anybody can do it. But can you really? To answer this question, to see whether or not people could do this, we conducted a survey worldwide to measure the energy people have for digital, the skills they bring to digital disruption, and the policies they have in their organizations that promote digital readiness. In conducting that survey, we found, I think, some humbling statistics. Let's start with the very top. Do people even believe that digital is going to affect their industry? The results of the survey, which I'm sharing, yes, people do believe. There is significant opportunity for digital to change my business. 89% said yes. Now, do you have the energy, personally and in your organization, the excitement to go and make this happen? 65%. 2/3 say yes. So that's a majority. That's encouraging. What about the skills? Do you have the skills in your organization necessary to help people address digital change? That's where the numbers get smaller. 38% say yes. Now, I bet you can imagine that when we ask about policies and business practices at your organization, do the numbers get suddenly better? No, they don't. In fact, they fall to 32%. 32% of executives that we surveyed who said, yes, we have the policies and practices. And most painfully, when we separate the answers based on whether or not you're a vice president or above, or whether you work below the vice president, here's what we found. Vice presidents and above, on this particular question, 49% of them say, we've got the policies and practices, we can do this. And they say charge, and off they run. And behind them, their entire army of employees says, no, we don't. Only 24% of them agree that the company can actually enable this through its policies and practices. The opportunity here is tremendous. In fact, it's not only tremendous, it's necessary. As we move from a world where devices matter most to a world where consumer faith in digital disruption goes far beyond the device, creates experiences that are far more significant, far more meaningful than what consumers have ever had before. Therefore, someone will come in and offer this. The barriers to entry are lower. Their ability to act like this is better. So your organization doesn't really have a choice. You have to participate in digital disruption. That's why we argue and encourage strongly that you take pages from the Disruptors Handbook. Imagine that disruptors had sat down and written a handbook on how to do this. I personally have imagined this handbook. I, in fact, wrote it in a book called Digital Disruption that came out last week. Whether you take my advice or turn to each other for outstanding advice on what to do next to face the continuing threat and opportunity of digital disruption, however you get there, I encourage you strongly to get there, to exploit platforms and digital tools, to deliver better product experiences and create stronger customer relationships. And with that, I thank you for your time and attention.